Good evening and welcome to the 6:30 Prime News on my Major Prime live from Douala, the economic capital of the country. My name is BLANCHE Peldrine KENG. For presentation, Bishop Michael Bibi has officially taken the command baton as the bishop and chief shepherd of the Boya Diocese. He was officially installed today at the Co-Cathedral in Moliko by the Apostolic Nuncio of Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea. The canonical possession also had in attendance the special representative of the head of state, Paul Chair, alongside some top-ranking government ministers, bishops, clergy, amongst others. His Grace Andrew Kea used his homily to call on all Christians of Boya Diocese to give their full support behind his Lordship, Michael Bibi. Our microphone caught up with Bishop Michael Bibi, and this is what he had to say through our reporter.
Thank you very much. I think that the way forward for the Diocese of Boya is that together with the clergy, with the religious and the laity, we are going to put our heads together to see how we can continue to work together as a family in order to improve on our spiritual life, on our pastoral ministry, and to see how we can get good accommodation for our churches and our priests, the presbyteries, in order to have more effective pastoral work.
Accepted yesterday and presented to the public. They were presented at the Bonanja Police Unit here in Douala, the littoral region of the country. They're said to have stolen a taxi from Douala, rebranded and sold it to an individual in Yaoundé. Our reporter, Nolinga, was present during the presentation to the public yesterday. She compiled the following.
These are the two bandits who have been intercepted and presented to the public today at the Bonanja Judicial Police Station here in Douala. Their names, Zambo Alain Bruno alias Alino, aged 53, and his accomplice Dimabella Amand Bienvenu alias Amand, aged 45 years old. The story dates as far back as December 30th, 2020, when these two men who originally resided in Yaoundé stormed Douala for a dark mission. Their target was this taximan, who recounts he had been hired by the crime masterminder Zambo Alain, who claimed to be a state official working at the clearing unit in the Douala International Airport.
She may be happy to say I've been carrying some person for MTN Dubai Aqua.
This is what happened. I carried this man around Dubai Aqua, and he told me he was an airport official who had just been sent to Burundi. I took him to the airport since he said he wanted to send some goods abroad. After successfully playing a series of mind games over the hired taxi driver, knowing best what he does, Alain now negotiated for another direction, this time around to Yassa, where his accomplice had been placed on standby.
Come again. You can't tell me go chop outside.
When he came out from the airport, he proposed we go eat something. Then I turned down his proposal. He led me to Yassa, where we spent over hours caught up in traffic. When we got to Yassa, he claimed the woman who had to lend him money had returned home. On his part, the taxi driver began feeling uncomfortable with the unrealistic deal and expressed his desire to return home. That's when Alino began placing calls to get their mission successfully accomplished, but this time around with a new strategy.
You can call the person. He
said his vehicle was in the mechanic workshop and had been skeletoned for repairs. We got into one of the neighborhoods in Yassa. Then I told him I can't speed up on an untarred road. Then he got out and began directing me on how to go. At a certain point, the taxi driver was asked to halt, where Alain began strangling him, and with the help of his accomplice who had arrived, the driver was molested and pretended to be dead. It was then that Alain asked for a rope. Suddenly, the taxi driver dashed into the valley in safety for his life. Thinking he was already dead, the team vanished with his taxi. On his part, the taxi driver managed channeling the situation to the anti-gang in the neighborhood, who alerted the police. After considering all details, the police unit in Yaoundé had been informed about the act, which prompted the search of this car. And in due time, the car was discovered to have been sold to a certain manga with the original yellow and red paintings turned blue. After thorough investigations, these two were apprehended alongside other stolen items. criminals. However, talking to the bandits, Dimabela Amand adheres to the accusations, while Alain Bruno, the masterminder, reserves his comments only for the court of law.
Je me suis retrouvé en train de Yassa. Donc lui, il est parti là, il a pris le véhicule, il est venu, et là on a arrêté le monsieur. On l'a arrêté, on l'a poussé. On l'a poussé, il est sorti du véhicule, on a pris le véhicule. On a essayé de le violenter. Et après, nous avons emporté le véhicule.
J'ai dit que je parlerai devant la justice. Je suis arrivé à Douala, je l'ai pris en course et nous avons arraché sa voiture.
Intercepted under his command, this police commander says this serves as an eye-opener to the public as he further calls on the need for vigilance and proactiveness in society.
Moi, j'appelle les ensemble des citoyens à la vigilance. Il faut qu'ils soient vigilants et qu'ils, avant de poser tout acte, qu'ils essaient un peu d'être vigilants et que chacun vive vraiment son mode de vie.
And like the saying goes, 99 days for a thief and 1 day for the owner. Mr. Emmanuel is a happy man today thanks to the intervention of the forces of law and order.
Stakeholders involved in the management of forest resources have adopted measures to ensure better management of natural resources in the national reserved areas. This was during the fourth phase of the steering committee meeting for the evaluation of a program to manage resources or natural resources in the country. The evaluation meeting took place in the southwest region of the country, as our reporter Clarice Ekowe tells us in the report that follows.
A project for the sustainable management of natural resources for the Southwest region is a development program of the Republic of Cameroon co-financed by the Republic of Germany through the German Development Bank. During this fourth phase of the steering committee meeting set aside to review and adopt the 2020 annual performance and financial reports and the 2021 annual work plan, it was revealed by the Southwest regional delegate of MINFOF that this project has experienced a number of challenges following the ongoing Anglophone crisis. In a bid to ensure the execution of the project despite the prevailing situation, some measures were put in place.
Like you rightly said, this is the fourth phase of the program, and what needs to be noted is that the program that was put forth for financing had readjustment due to the socio-political crisis. We have adopted measures that permit us to carry out activities in the fund.
To the representative of the German Development Bank, he expressed satisfaction with the execution of the project so far, while expressing the willingness of the German Development Bank to continue the project.
This is a very old project. We have a long tradition of cooperation between KfW and the Southwest here, where this program PSMNR is working, has developed a kind of, I think, strong relationship between the populations around the natural resources. So the idea that if we sustain the management of this resource and just don't kill them, this is for advantage of all of people, for the nature, for animals, of course, but also for the people around. We can benefit from these resources, that if they cut down the wood, then they have money on short time, but the long term, nothing left. We're supporting this program, and until now we don't see a reason to stop it.
While some resolutions were taken at the end of the meeting, stakeholders involved in the sector were admonished by the representative of the Minister of Forestry and Wildlife on the need to work together for a better implementation of the project.
Chief of Sector for Customs in the Southwest region, Wange Nyamsidanya, paid a visit to the abandoned custom control post down beach Limbe recently to evaluate the state of the structure pending rehabilitation to launch a custom control post in Dockyard. The visit comes at a time when some economic operators have expressed the need for a security and custom post to be revamped and to be established or to revamped economic activities around that area. Kumono Rimbom has more in the following report.
The old custom control post down beach Limbe has an outstanding history of one of the oldest harbors in Cameroon. Over the years, this post was a potential revenue source to the state. Heavy boats, merchandise, and ships from Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, and Benin landed and offloaded here. The warehouse, stores, and offices are clear proofs of economic activities that were carried out here. It is rather unfortunate that today the dockyard vicinity is abandoned and serves as a hideout to criminals, drug addicts, bandits, and street children who come to the beach in search for menial jobs to survive. Clandestine maritime activities such as petrol bunking, drug smuggling, weapon smuggling, and piracy have become the order of the day with the absence of a security and customs control post. It was in Dockyard, Down Beach vicinity, that a bank robbery was orchestrated some 10 years ago, with pirates successfully robbing 3 banks, making away with huge sums of money, and recorded the loss of 3 human lives. The Chief of Sector for Customs for the Southwest region, Mr. Mwange Yamsi Daniel, recently paid a visit to the abandoned custom control post in Dockyard, Down Beach, Limbe. His visit to this abandoned structure announces the renovation of the old custom control post to make it go operational upon instructions from the Director General of Customs. His visit to Dockyard is expected to lay to rest the worries posed by economic operators and inhabitants who are the immediate beneficiaries of the socio-economic activities that will come as a result of the relaunching of a mobile custom control post to check on maritime activities.
For the past years, same thing I've been asking the government to rehabilitate this bureau, which was officially reopened by Ministerial Order number 002/January 2011. Appointing staffs that were abandoned there on their own by the former Chief Minister. Today I'm very happy because after all these days, the present Chief Minister took his delegation where custom fraud is being harbored up to Mabeta and the rest.
Besides relaunching the custom post to generate more income to the state, the mobile custom brigade post will also help to protect the government to check against illegal importation of goods such as weapons, drugs, and smuggling of contraband goods. The mobile custom control post will equally help to protect consumers and the local industries against the illegal importation of harmful medications, pesticides, as well as from foreign competition and piracy.
Some 55 youths in Boya have received working equipment to help them scale their entrepreneurial productivity. The items were donated to them by the United Nations Development Project under the project mitigating the impact of COVID-19. This was during a ceremony chaired by the representative of Southwest Governor Dumbe Matthew Theophile. Clarice Ekowe reports.
Since the outbreak of the respiratory disease in December 2019, many countries have experienced economic recession, including Cameroon. According to statistics, over 200 jobs have been lost, with youth and women negatively affected. It is in this regard that this project titled Mitigate the Impact of COVID-19 on Vulnerable Groups, spearheaded by the United Nations Development Project in collaboration with MINJEC and MINPROF, was launched in Boya, benefiting from the over 130 different equipment worth 63 million francs CFA are some young entrepreneurs from Boya who were carefully selected following laid down criteria.
5 potential youth entrepreneurs who have been selected after a competitive process. Today we hand over equipment to youth and women in order to facilitate socio-economic integration and fighting poverty and vulnerability.
Chairing the ceremony was a representative of the Southwest Governor, Dumbe Matthew Theophile, who lauded the initiative while calling on the laureates to put the equipment into proper use as their own contribution in making the country an emerging nation by 2035.
For your numerous endeavors, not just this one, because this one is among hundreds of laudable initiatives. Beneficiaries, the ball is now in your court. As you're taking these materials, you put them to good use.
To one of the beneficiaries, the donation of the equipment is timely given the production challenges facing young entrepreneurs.
To pay their salaries, we're not able to improve the business because we don't have the tools. And so with the coming of the United Nations Development Program is to boost services.
It should be noted that the United Nations Development Project was launched in 2020 in Cameroon to help the Cameroon government in its efforts in creating job opportunities for Cameroonians. Among other projects are on the pipeline.
Cameroon Baptist Convention has in a recent communique warned all its staff and persons using the services to strictly respect COVID-19 measures as the healthcare facility has experienced their second and more infectious COVID-19 outbreak. Details with Faith TATA in the following report.
In a communique dating February 24, 2020, signed by the director of the Cameroon Baptist Convention Health Services, Professor T. Pius, more staff members have been infected in the past 2 weeks than were infected between March and December 2020, when the institution first observed their major outbreak. The communique went on to reiterate that devotion's health shall hence be decentralized. The testing of patients in all wards shall be mandatory, while continuing with the washing of hands, wearing of face masks, and the usage of hand sanitizers. This communique, indicating a rise in infection rate, comes barely a few days after Cameroon health officials met in Yaoundé in a meeting chaired by Health Minister Dr. Manaouda Malachi to further tighten the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon. This is to be made possible by ensuring that tests are carried out and delivered within 24 hours, as well as increasing manpower in the 17 laboratories nationwide to boost their productivity. In a more recent communique, Health Minister also reminded persons with suspected COVID-19 symptoms to observe the protocol of treatment so as to avoid community spread. So far, the number of severe cases as well as deaths have recorded an increase in Cameroon.
As Cameroon prepares to receive the COVID-19 vaccine against the controversy keeps swelling, many citizens are skeptical, though Health Minister Manaouda Malachi has clarified most Cameroonians on the COVID-19 vaccine, urging citizens to respect all COVID-19 measures so the virus can be completely eradicated in the country. Our reporter Audrey Zatsa looks deep into this in the following report.
Alors que l'éventualité d'une importante campagne de vaccination contre le coronavirus en Afrique fait l'objet d'une immense polémique depuis des mois, alimentée par de nombreuses théories circulant sur les réseaux sociaux, dont la substance semble indiquer que les grandes industries pharmaceutiques auraient ciblé le continent africain afin de pratiquer des essais cliniques pour juger l'efficacité éventuelle d'un vaccin contre le coronavirus, le ministre de la Santé publique, le docteur Manaouda Malachi, est revenu sur la question du vaccin contre le coronavirus lors d'une interview à la chaîne nationale ce 21 février 2021. Selon lui, la position du président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, est claire, celle de préparer notre pays à une éventuelle introduction de ce vaccin.
Comme la situation épidémiologique est encore très bonne, on ne va pas courir vers le vaccin, mais on ne sait jamais. Au cas où on aura recours à un éventuel vaccin, le président ne voudrait pas que ses compatriotes soient démunis, soit sans vaccin. Pourquoi? Nous sommes dans un environnement mondial où les pays riches se sont accaparés tous les vaccins. Aujourd'hui, nous était la facilité COVAX qui offre la possibilité aux pays qui n'ont pas assez de moyens de pouvoir également prétendre à une moindre couverture quand même de leur population en vaccin, en vaccination, on ne devait pas le faire. Parce que les pays riches ont d'ailleurs financé même les recherches du vaccin. Ils ont acheté, quand vous prenez l'un des pays que je tais le nom ici, ils ont acheté 10 fois plus que le nombre de leur population en termes de doses. Et donc, ça fait que si nous étions allés nous-mêmes sur le marché international, il était très difficile pour nous de les avoir. Et donc, le président a pris des dispositions pour que nous préparions à une éventuelle introduction de ce vaccin, mais il faut qu'on le dise. D'abord, le principe n'est pas un principe de rendre ce vaccin obligatoire. Partout ailleurs, nous disons ici que le vaccin, ce sera un vaccin, si jamais on a besoin, ce sera un vaccin qui va se faire sur la base du volontariat. Vous voulez, vous venez vous faire vacciner, vous ne voulez pas, ne le faire pas.
Il est à noter que d'autres pays africains ont reçu le vaccin, notamment le Ghana, le premier pays à recevoir 600 000 doses de vaccins dans le cadre du programme COVAX. Toujours dans le cadre de cette initiative et selon l'Union européenne, le Cameroun recevra plus de 2 millions de doses dans les prochaines semaines. Quoique, pour le docteur Manaoda Malachi, le Cameroun n'a pas à s'alarmer outre mesure avec l'évolution globale de l'épidémie, mais il a réitéré que les citoyens devraient prendre conscience, respecter les mesures barrières prescrites afin de faire reculer au maximum cet ennemi de l'humanité.
Season 3 of Impact Talks has been launched. The session to help educate enterprises on how to attain success took place recently in Douala, organized by Go Ahead Africa. In the report that follows, Nora Kakebi highlights the important steps in achieving success according to the presentations during the third edition of the talks. Details in the following report.
5 barometers of success and personal inventory is a theme of the first edition, Season 3 of Impact Talks, a monthly leadership training session for top and middle management of enterprises, an initiative of Go Ahead Africa Limited. Leadership coach Roland Kweme now highlights the 5 barometers of success.
What were those barometers? Number 1, our career. 2, the family life. 3, our friends. 4, our commitment in the community, and 5, the spirituality.
Mr. Kweme explains further that personal inventory is an indispensable tool in achieving success.
Now, the second tool that will help us to measure and to make sure that we are quite successful in all those aspects of the life is what we call the personal inventory, which is like a SWOT analysis for organization. The first aspect of it is what our resources are. Second, what are our successes? What have we succeeded? I mean, how do we count our blessings? Do we know our blessings? The third, what are the elements that do not help us to achieve our goal? In terms of obstacles, we need to identify them. And last but not the least is our projection. Where do we see ourselves in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? We need to project ourselves. Now, if we do a great and a very honest analysis using these tools, this technique, I'm sure that we will measure our strength. We are going to measure how far we have gone and also how far we need to do, what type of effort we need to do in order to have a fulfilled life.
Personal inventory, according to the leadership coach, is holistic as it also helps managers to succeed in the aspects of social and family lives.
Now, what is good with personal inventory is that it's holistic. It's not just succeeding professionally. You need also to succeed socially, family-wide, spiritual, emotional. So human beings are not just interested by our career, but there are other elements. And for me, spirituality is even very, very, very crucial.
Contrary to other seasons, the first edition, Season 3, had in attendance just 100 participants because of the strict respect of COVID-19 barrier measures.
400 trainees will soon be selected for in-depth medical examinations in Yaoundé to fit in as members of the Rapid Intervention Battalion. 1,850 candidates were presented recently at the command post in the East region during a ceremony chaired by the governor for the East region. Details in the French language with Jean Didier.
Environ 1487 candidats étaient sur les starting blocks au camp du deuxième de l'État. C'était à l'occasion du recrutement des commandos d'élite du bataillon d'intervention rapide. Pendant 4 jours, ils ont franchi toutes les barrières qui mènent aux portes du paradis. Des ateliers visuels en passant par l'audition, puis la visite médicale, et enfin, la grande épreuve tant redoutée, les 20 km avec charge de 20 kg, qui laissera sur le carreau plus de 1000 candidats. Ils devront réviser leur stratégie pour la prochaine édition. Pour accueillir les 400 élus de cette première vague, le gouverneur de la région de l'Est et le général Joseph Nouma de la brigade d'infanterie motorisée, qui remettront les maillots aux 5 meilleurs de cette course commando. La satisfaction est plutôt visible sur les candidats qui ne cachent pas leur joie.
Je compte continuer parce que je connais d'abord ma santé, moi-même. Parce que s'il ne me sentait pas bien, il n'allait pas faire ce que j'ai obtenu. Parce que j'ai beaucoup de mes frères qui sont dans l'armée et je défends aussi mon pays.
Les épreuves suivantes, la course de 10 km libre, le poteau et le grimper à la corde, très physique, seront notés de 0 à 20. Ainsi donc, les meilleurs rejoindront les candidats des autres régions pour la visite médicale approfondie à Yaoundé. La région de l'Est a tenu le pari du recrutement, qui s'est déroulé sans heurts ni cas de décès. Le tout dans le strict respect des mesures barrières.
Prime News ends here. Thanks for being a part of today's edition of the Evening News on My Media Prime. See you tomorrow at 6:30, God willing, for another edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. My name is Genda Pelgrim Blanche King. The news was coordinated by Lasha Kinsley, produced by EWANE NOLINGA. A few minutes from now, Prime Hour will be live with Kim Leonard. Enjoy fresh edition of the program. Good evening and good night.